there's actually some relationships that people are in and it's not considered prostitution per se, but the man is doing nothing but just releasing in her. He's not taking care of her in any kind of way. Even so, could be using her, taking advantage of her, getting money from her, and so forth and so on. And he's creating an energetic balance for himself. So he's not going to experience the things that he thinks that he should be experiencing in life when he's engaged in that type of behavior, because that's not reciprocity going on, right? And I'm not saying that anybody should be going out and engaging in prostitution. I'm not saying that's even like morally sound according to the tradition, because it is not. But it is a form of reciprocity that people need to understand when they engage in sexual relationships, because that's what's happening. When a man releases his semen in her, he's also releasing energetic debris and refuse inside of a woman, and she's cleaning it up through her menstrual cycle and pushing it out and removing it. But like, she's constantly taking these things in, they can negatively impact her as well. So there's a whole lot of things that go on with sex beyond the physical, as I said before. If a woman is dealing with any type of irregularities, discomfort, or what have you during her menstrual cycle, when she's going through perimenopause or the menopausal phase or what have you, these are irregularities and imbalances, all right? And so she can absolutely seek out traditional support to help her. There's a crochet, there are herbal remedies that you can use in the tradition if you are having issues with this lady. So you don't have to suffer, or you don't have to just deal with allopathic medicine or what have you if you're not comfortable with that. Understand that there are ways that you can be helped with that dynamic. What does Ifa teach about sex during menstruation? I got this question a few times. So when it comes to menstrual blood, it's a very, very sacred, powerful force, guys. All right, it's creation, it's release, as I talked about before. You're releasing the creative force, your ability to create, because that's the unfertilized egg being removed from her body, right? She's also releasing energetic debris from herself, from her mate, right? Even when a woman bleeds after she has a baby, it's not like the traditional menstrual cycle, but she's also releasing a lot of that energetic flow from that child that she just had. So it's a very necessary cleansing process, all right? That being said, it's energetically charged. So we don't just use menstrual blood for anything. This is a time to release, to remove things from the body, all right? You should not be engaging in sexual intercourse during this time, because it's a time for release. You're removing things, not a time for her to be penetrated in that way. I know sometimes, situations happen. You might just want it that time, but y'all might need to figure out another way to do what you need to do, because that's not something that really should be done according to the traditions, because it's interfering with that purification process, okay? And it can cause quite a few problems moving forward. It can cause some energetic issues, spiritual issues with the man and the woman for that matter. So yeah, you figure out something else, to do during that time. Many lineages hold that engaging in sex during this time can lead to ritual contamination, stagnation, and so many different things, all right? This is a taboo for pretty much everyone, that you should not, for everyone, not pretty much, you should not engage in sex during a woman's menstrual cycle. That's just the reality of it. Another question, guys, is how does Ifa approach gender identity and trans experiences? According to the tradition, one more time, according to the tradition, right? Certain aspects of a person's life are understood as fixed, right? You can't change it. The day you were born, the day that you have agreed to die or to transition from this earth, and your biological sex, meaning the organs that you were born with and the orientation of those organs. all right, during your lifetime. So, everybody came in here with a particular energetic signature. If you are born with a penis, then you are in a male orientation, masculine energy, predominant. If you were born with a vagina, you are in a female orientation, feminine energy. All right. Yes, there are certain such things as hermaphrodites, which are anomalies. All right. And in those cases, you want to consult Ifa to determine what to do, even at the onset of that. So if a parent has a child that, is hermaphrodite, for people who may not understand what that word is born with both sexual organs. Person who is dealing with that, they want to consult Ifa for their child to figure out what to do. So sometimes, like in Western medicine, they'll usually remove one of the organs so that the child only deals with the other organ. That can be very tricky because they may be oriented towards their other sex, and now their other organ is gone. So we will have to figure that out. But that's an anomaly. That is not the standard. That is not typical. Okay, you're not able to change those things according to tradition. So I'm not saying scientifically, because obviously it's available out there. I'm saying from a traditional perspective, you're not supposed to change those dynamics within yourself. Ifa sees that as a corruption, a distortion. Okay, if you're experiencing challenges in this area as far as your identity sexually, it is best to consult with Ifa, consult with a trusted Ifa priest if you're into the tradition, to determine what you need to do about it, what's causing these feelings, and how can you orient yourself properly that you are aligned with your destiny. Again, that is traditional wisdom. That is not coming from me specifically. And I iterate that point because it's nothing to do with how I feel about it. It's all to do with how the tradition presents, the masculine and the feminine energy. Menstrual blood is the blood of life, a powerful cleansing and renewal force. During this time, women's Ashe resets. Elders teach that it should not be mixed with another's. Absolutely, it shouldn't be. And it shouldn't also, thank you for bringing that up, because it reminded me too to say this. You should not use menstrual blood in ritual work. That is an abomination. I know women do it, especially when we talk about like the diaspora practices, the hoodoo and all of that is a common thing. Even growing up in the South, I used to hear people talk about it all the time. Woman using her menstrual blood, she cooks food for the man in order to keep him or in order to get him or what have you. You're not supposed to do that. That is against traditional protocol. That is an abomination to use your menstrual blood in that way. Now, we're going to talk about sacred sexual energy and the Orisha. So going back to a lot of the conversations that you guys have been asking about the different Orishas that are involved in sex. So there are a number of Orishas that are involved in this process at some level. We're going to focus in first on some of the primordial energies. So these are the energies that were here from the beginning when it comes to sex, Iyami and Eshu, right? So we're talking about these two forces. They ultimately embody the origin of sexual energy itself. That's that raw creative ability, guys. The polarity, the duality, male and female energy, all right? This is generative force. This is the potentiality, the ability to create at that level. So especially when we're talking about Iyami, we're talking about the womb, the darkness, that creative matrix that exists within a female's body so that she can carry life, she can gestate life and bring it forward out of the womb, right? Eshu represents the active spark, that erect phalanx, where he is the initiator, the activator of the life force energy itself, the movement, right? Eshu represents movement as well. So that's at the primordial level, right? The generative level of sex. Both of these particular energies basically act as the portal, the gateways, the thresholds in which life can come into being, into the earth from the astral realm. Okay. Um, we're talking about passion and desire and magnetism and things of that nature. This is where Oshun and Shango come from. This is who most people think about first when they say, sexual energy, especially Oshun. They just think about her sweet waters and her feminine energy and all of this good stuff. Definitely, she embodies that notion, the sweetness, the sensuality, and the attraction. She governs pleasure and intimacy, and even so those emotional bonds that we talked about before, because that is one of the primary purposes of sex, to bond people closer to each other. Now, Shango, his energy complements this dynamic from the masculine perspective. So he's that fiery charisma. He's also about magnetism and attraction, confidence, male virility, right? That drive, that desire, okay, passion. Both of those energies are so vital, because otherwise, without them, sex wouldn't be pleasurable, and so nobody would want to do it. So they make people want to do it. So this is one of the reasons why they are going to be first and foremost, when we talk about sex and things like that. But as we just talked about before, we first have to have that foundation with Iyami and Eshu, because that's that kind of blank palette where creativity starts. Eshu governs creativity itself. Both of them do, Eshu and Iyami. They govern the notion of creativity itself, bringing things into being, right? So these two, as far as Shango and Oshun, and there are mythological narratives that these two forces were even so married, right? Together, they represent that pleasure aspect, as I talked about before. That's necessary for people to get together, for you to be attracted to someone, for you to just have that spark or that desire and just feel like, I would love to be with this particular person.